This week, I actually got some new microphones, so I'm just testing them out for this episode, and I'd love to get your feedback on them because now I have two alternatives and want to make sure that obviously I'm giving you guys the best quality podcast I can. So just a bit of feedback would be appreciated on what you think of the sound quality of this episode. Hello, and welcome back to the second episode of the Amelie Maran Podcast, where we talk all things travel, moving abroad, and a bit of girl chat too. Again, I have my tea here. I hope you have yours, or if you're on the move, I hope you're listening. Today, I'm going to talk about packing essentials and things to kind of consider when packing. But also, I've got a really fun story about the time when we climbed an active volcano in Guatemala. So let's get into it. I really need to find safer places to put my tea. This does not feel stable. Anyway, I've just got my laptop here for some of the questions that I'm going to be answering later. But for now, I'm going to give you a weekly update and give you some context as to what's been going on this past week. It's actually been a really positive week. I had one of the strangest interviews I think I've ever experienced. I have been working since I was 16 and I have never experienced something like this. It was an interview that I didn't know was an interview for a catering company. And if no one knows what that is, it's kind of like waitressing, but they send you off on these jobs, and it's essentially an agency for waitresses. And I was not told it was an interview. So I turned up in my bright red Hoka shoes that I have had since I've been traveling. I turned up in baggy jeans and a baggy jumper, literally like this, and walk into the waiting room. It's all men in suits, full equipped suits. They've got waistcoats, they've got blazers. During this interview, they asked me to walk around the room holding plates. I had to do a bit of role play, which was a bit cheeky, and pretend I was talking to customers who were not there, and pretend I was clearing their plates. And it was just quite an odd interview, but I did get the job. I can't be ungrateful for it, but it was definitely an interesting process to get there. Another really interesting thing that I've been up to recently, which was a complete random side quest, was I actually got booked to be the radio host on a radio show, and it's called Future Hits UK. It focuses on emerging artists, people who are signed to small record labels and just want to get their music out there, just want it to be heard and promote anything that they've got coming up, such as album release, single releases, any interviews, anything like that. They gave me the slot of 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday every week. So my first show has just played and it was really successful, really exciting. So that's something I'm also looking for, is people to send me their music if you want to be heard, and I can play it on the radio. But let's get into this week's packing essentials. The importance of talking about packing essentials is, I think everybody's trip looks different, and I don't want to sit here for the next however long and go, I took 5 tops and I took 2 pairs of trousers and things like that, because everybody's trip is so different and everybody has different needs on their trips. But I just want to give you an overview of things to consider and things to look out for. It also just saves you time and money. Packing just feels like the most overwhelming experience. I mean, for me, I put it off until the very last minute, until I was literally leaving the door. Like, I didn't want to think about packing because I feel like I get so overwhelmed and so intimidated by, what if I forget this? And I'm not going to remember everything if I just try and pack. So I just need to do it in small bits, and then I just put it off and end up completely forgetting everything. I actually didn't pack for our travels until the night before. I don't recommend doing that. I mean, I didn't have any issues or massive issues, but I really don't recommend doing that if you want to make sure you have everything and you're not worrying about making sure you have everything. I spent so long scrolling TikTok and trying to find the perfect packing list for 5 months of traveling. But I was so overwhelmed by all the different types of packing lists. I also found that a lot of them were aimed at people going to Asia, and that's quite a different climate to what we were doing in Latin America, because we were going through lots of different climates, whereas in Asia, for people's trips, they would bring mostly summer clothes and hot weather clothes, but we also needed kind of a winter wardrobe per se. So I didn't find them massively helpful. At the end of the day, you are the one that has to carry it. You are the one that is going to be lugging this bag around with you on all your buses, all your flights, all your hostels, everything. And so you just don't want to overpack, which is something I cannot stress enough. Also, the more efficiently you pack, the lighter your bag is going to be. So it's just a conversation I feel like is really important to have. And I just want to make anybody who's kind of overwhelmed when they think of packing for traveling just feel a bit more calm, and it's not actually that stressful, and I was 100% being dramatic. I've kind of organized this by category, so thinking of the main things that you're going to be taking when you're traveling, or even if you're going on holiday, you're going to have a backpack or a suitcase. That's the first thing. Your main bag where everything's going to be kept. This can either be checked luggage or carry-on, depending on the size, but I would say anything over 50 litres, 55 litres, 55 is like a push. I would say 50 litres is kind of your max carry-on size, maybe. I can't say I've trialed it, so don't take my word on that. What I want to talk about with backpacks and suitcases, for example, is it's got to be something that's durable and something that's comfortable for you. With a backpack, for example, you are carrying this all the time. If you are ever moving location, you are carrying this, and you want to make sure it suits your height. I want to say your weight, but I don't actually know. You just need to be able to obviously carry it and it's not too heavy on your back. So for example, if I'd gotten a bag that was 80 litres or 70 litres, my body frame wouldn't be able to carry the weight of that bag. I'm also just not that strong. So I think when I say weight, I mean, I think your physical endurance maybe is a better phrase for it, but you want to be able to carry this bag comfortably. It wants to sit on your hips comfortably. You don't want to be breaking your back every time you carry this bag. And I think you can get completely overwhelmed by all of the options that are out there, but I went with Mountain Warehouse, Sam went for Osprey. I honestly think it doesn't matter as long as the bag fits you and you're happy with it. I also recommend just not taking a bag where you're over consuming on what you're taking. If you're going on a 3-month traveling break or a 3-month holiday even, you're not going to want to take a 70-litre rucksack unless you are coming over prepared, because you just don't need it. I would say if you're going from 3 to 5 months, you could get away with 45 to 60 litres. Anything more, maybe you want to go for a bit higher. It really depends on the kind of packer you are, and obviously the clothing that you're taking, which we'll talk about later. Next is the day pack, which I had a 20-litre rucksack, and then I also had the classic Uniqlo bum bag, which I cannot stress is the best thing I've ever bought. I loved my Uniqlo bag so much, and I know it's kind of old, everyone is like done talking about it, everybody knows how good it is, but I loved that bag. It kept everything for me. I could go out for the day, I could keep my passport on me, it felt safe, I had money, just anything you needed. It also carries like full bottles of water, so it was honestly the best thing. I can't stress enough that you should buy that as your kind of, it's like a day bag, but like it's like a fanny pack. For rucksacks, I think just pick whatever feels right for you. I had a 20-litre, which was like a typical kind of looked like a school rucksack. Some people had smaller day packs that were like 15-litre bags from Osprey, but just do a bit of research and just see what you think. I think if you're going on big expeditions and you know you're not going to have access to your big bag for a while, for example, doing like multiple day hikes quite consistently, then you might want to opt for like a 25 litre bag, but that kind of then becomes quite a big rucksack. So I think it's just about doing your research, see what your trip kind of entails and see what works for you. But I couldn't stress enough, get that Uniqlo fanny pack. You all know exactly which one I'm talking about. It's so good. Now moving on to clothing. This is obviously going to differ for everybody, and it's going to differ depending on which countries you're going to, what climates you're going to. So I don't want to sit here, like I said, and take you through, I took 5 t-shirts and whatever. I don't want to do that because there's no point, because that's not useful for everybody. My one piece of advice is just to look at your trip, just seeing what the average weather is for the month or months that you're going to be there, and just bring clothes accordingly. I brought enough clothes, I think, to get me through 7 or 10 days. It's not something I actually ended up doing. I would wear clothes multiple days in a row, but to have that security of knowing that I had 7 different outfits or 10 different outfits, it just makes it a bit easier. Also means that you're not having to go to the cleaners that often, and some countries it was expensive, some not, so you just want to kind of avoid it where you can. But with clothing, I would say pack enough as though you're going for 7 to 10 days, and you could wear a different outfit every day. If you've got multiple climates coming up, I would suggest doing 5 days for each. So 5 days of hot weather, 5 days of cold weather. Smaller chunks of time for different outfits, but also making sure that you've got enough pants and socks and things like that, because that's just something you don't want to run out of. For footwear, I actually took 4 pairs of shoes, which I feel like sounds quite excessive and like a lot. I had my walking boots, my Salomon walking boots, which I 100% recommend you invest in. Just do it. If you know you're going to be doing long walks, long hikes, just do it. It's so worth it. You don't want to mess up your feet. When you're on the move so much, your feet are the number one thing to protect, I would say. You just want to make sure that they're cushioned and cozy and not getting blisters and just not uncomfortable. I had my Salomons, and then I had my bright red Hoka shoes. They were just good shoes to kind of walk around in. If we were just exploring a town, I wasn't going to wear my walking boots. I just wore trainers, which was so ideal because they were also really comfy. Then I took Birkenstocks for beach times when it was hot and we were just popping to the shops, that kind of thing. But also I absolutely love my Birkenstocks, so I wasn't going to leave without a pair of them. Then my last pair of shoes I took were just some old Havaiana flip-flops my mum gave to me. I wouldn't suggest going out and buying new flip-flops if you're not someone that wants to wear flip-flops. I only ever use them for the showers in hostels or in hotels where maybe you could tell it's just not been cleaned very thoroughly. I didn't really wear them out or anything. That's just personal preference. For things like personal care and kind of miscellaneous items, I can't recommend enough getting the Amazon toiletries bag that sort of flops, it folds out. It's got 3 different compartments, loads of hidden pockets, and you just fold it up, zip it up, and it fits perfectly in your bag. I actually won't travel with a different toiletry bag now. It's the best one I've had. And it also hooks onto doors, which is so ideal when you're in a hostel and you don't want to put it on the floor. You can just hook it on the back of the door or hook it on a hook somewhere in the bathroom, and all your stuff stays clean and really dry. Okay, so now on to the questions part. So some people ask some questions about packing and what to bring, and I just want to answer some of them. The first question is, what is the best way to pack to save space? Now, I personally recommend packing cubes. This is for either traveling or going on holiday. They just structure your packing so much better and just a lot more easily. I would have like all my t-shirts in one packing cube, all my trousers, then you've got pants and socks. And I was somebody who did not understand how they really worked. I didn't understand the point of them. I thought they took up more room. If you buy the compression ones off Amazon, you can save so much room. And I think when you're going on holiday, for example, and you don't want to check your luggage, because obviously that can cost quite a lot of money sometimes, 100% recommend getting compression packing cubes because you can fit them in a tiny suitcase. Next one is, what are the essentials I should bring in my carry-on? I would say things like an eye mask, a book, if you like crosswords and like word puzzles, that kind of thing. Obviously your passport. I don't know if that goes without saying. Make sure to bring your passport, and make sure that your passport is in date. Do not try and travel on an expired passport, or if you only have, some countries don't let you travel if you only have 6 months left on your passport. Just don't do it. It causes such a stress for people around you and for yourself. So just make sure that your passport is in date. For me, I can't go anywhere without headphones, so I'm going to say bring some noise cancelling headphones if you can. Sometimes you can actually buy these at airports. Maybe last thing is like a card game, or I bought Sam for his birthday this like 5-in-1 travel size games where it was like chess and snakes and ladders and things. That was actually really fun. We would play quite a lot of that in the beginning of our travels, and it would keep you occupied. Sometimes you just don't want to sit on your phone and kind of get too overstimulated. So the 2 card games I really suggest buying is obviously a normal pack of cards, and then also Monopoly Deal. If you don't have it or know what it is, search it up. It's the best game. And actually, one that's come to mind is Uno. I 100% wish we had taken Uno, because that is just the best game. You can't go wrong with Uno. Everybody loves Uno. And it's also a game where you can get everybody involved who doesn't speak English. So it's quite a nice one to play at hostels because everybody knows how to play. It's just something to get everybody involved, and it kind of eradicates the language barrier. And I think that's quite a nice thing. The next question is, how can I prevent my toiletries leaking in my bag? I actually used sandwich bags. I feel like that's common. Maybe that's not common, but I use sandwich bags, and I would just put like the big bottles of shampoo, big bottles of conditioner in a sandwich bag. Just pray it didn't leak. I mean, there's not much you can do. If not, like I said before, the Amazon toiletries bag is the best thing. And last question, what should I pack for a long haul flight? I feel like it's similar to what I said for a carry-on, just obviously your passport, but things like headphones, a book. If you like traveling with a specific blanket, maybe. I know on most long haul flights they give you one, but sometimes you just want to travel with your own. But the one thing I will stress is just wearing whatever you want for a flight. Just don't stress about what people think, because when we flew from Chile to Australia, I was so conscious of the fact that I was wearing a jumper like this and then massive oversized grey tracksuit, and I think I had to wear my walking boots as well because they wouldn't fit in my bag. So I honestly looked a mess, and I was really self-conscious of it, and I thought people are going to think I'm really strange. They are not. No one cares. No one cares about what you're wearing. Just honestly make sure to wear something comfortable and don't stress about what anyone thinks. But my biggest thing on flights is Maltesers. For some reason, I feel like Maltesers taste so much better on a plane. I have no idea why. I don't actually eat Maltesers very often, but for some reason, eating them at home is just not the same as eating them on a flight. So if you're someone who likes to snack, 100% get Maltesers. I don't know why. For some reason, it's just best snack on a plane, but I couldn't tell you why. Now I've got a bit of a story time about the time when we climbed an active volcano in Antigua, Guatemala. This is something that is quite popular in the area and a lot of people do it, but it was one of the best experiences. And it was very close. It was very close to when we'd started our travels, which I think kind of opened our minds to understanding what traveling was. We got to meet some really cool people on the trip as well, so that was really fun. So the Acatenango climb is up a dormant volcano. They say it can no longer erupt, but I don't know. And the goal is to get to base camp on this dormant volcano, which is Acatenango, so that you have a view of the volcano Fuego, which is the one erupting and the one that everybody takes pictures of, and some people do hike it as well. But we started the day at about 7 a.m. and we did our trip through a hostel. So we went to this hostel at 7 in the morning, and they actually gave us breakfast, which we thought was really kind of them. And we were sitting at this table with some people, and one guy on the table had done this hike before, and I'd heard such mixed reviews about it. Some people say it's really easy, some people say they really struggled. I am not fit as well, like especially now, but at that point, we had done zero hiking. I had not done any exercise since moving home from uni, which was about 6 months prior. So I was not the fittest person. We're sitting with these people. This guy has done the hike before, and he says, oh, it's really difficult, really, really hard. But I'm thinking, okay, but what is your version of hard? Because you're doing it again, so it can't be that bad. He just says, yeah, it's quite difficult for some people. You are walking uphill for what can be up to 8 hours, so it isn't the most ideal for some people. And suddenly it starts daunting on me that whilst I've been telling everybody, family and friends back at home, that we're going to climb this volcano and it's going to be really cool, I actually have to do it now. And I had not taken into consideration that I'm going to be walking uphill for a very long time. They also didn't really give us a lot of information on the hike when you go on the website. I didn't really know what to expect and I was getting a bit worried. But you drive for an hour out of Antigua, Guatemala to 2,400 meters above sea level. So already you're kind of feeling a bit of altitude, but it's not horrific. Like I would say it's not that bad. Then we begin hiking, and one thing to really note is that it takes probably 5 to 8 hours to get to the top, or I guess what they called base camp. And base camp is at 3,500 meters above sea level. So if you're somebody that suffers with altitude sickness, it can be really detrimental to you. I'm very fortunate. I didn't have any issues with any altitude sickness. All that you can really do when you have altitude sickness is just keep drinking water and breathing through it. You have support whilst you're on the hike. I don't think that this is stressed enough on social media when I see people talk about this hike. There are people that have altitude sickness medicine. They have lots of water to give you if you need it. And they're very knowledgeable on how to deal with altitude sickness. They do this hike quite often. They also let you go at your own pace, so there's no need to stress about being too slow or if you're slowing a group down. Everybody's doing it at their own pace because everybody's different levels of fitness and everybody deals with the altitude differently. You just need to focus on getting to the top. That's all you need to focus on. One thing that we were a bit confused about, even after doing a bit of research online, was what to pack. Because Guatemala in itself was very warm when we went. It was not rainy season. We kept hearing from people that you needed to pack layers and it's going to be really cold because of obviously the altitude. So I packed things like Uniqlo heat tech socks, things like that, and it was the best thing. Honestly, make sure you take your layers because it gets so cold. And also, depending on what company you're with, there are different huts that people sleep in and different comfort levels depending on the company you go with and how much you pay. We were basically sleeping outside. So our hut was, I think, 16 people. It was 8 people on top, 8 people on the bottom. And they're just these little levels. They're not beds. You're just sleeping on the floor of a level with a sleeping mat and a sleeping bag and a blanket. Also, depending on what company you go with, some companies will provide all the meals for you. Things like packing snacks and water is something that I would recommend you do anyway, even though they provide meals. It's also just ideal for you to keep your energy levels up. Whilst you're hiking up for 5, potentially 8 hours up this volcano, you want to make sure that you have things like electrolyte drinks and vitamin drinks, packing little granola bars even, or cereal bars. I think we even took some sort of sweets just to keep your sugar levels up. We got to base camp at about 3 p.m. and we started at 10 a.m. So it took about 5 hours, and that was due to me having to stop and start because Sam actually cruised through this hike. I was struggling a lot. And he was just sort of acting like it was a Sunday stroll. So I don't know what that says about me, but the altitude was causing me to have really bad shortness of breath. Yeah, it was a lot. I also had my whole 60-liter backpack on my back, which you are not meant to do. So that's also probably why I struggled. I had all my layers, all my water, everything, and we didn't know that our company was providing water for us. When we got to the top and we were putting our bags in the hut, our guide held my bag and went, "What the hell are you carrying in there?" And he said, "You should not have walked up here with this bag. This is way too heavy for anybody." He said, "I wouldn't even carry this up." So I was like, okay, well, I kind of feel better about myself because I have climbed up with this bag, but it is an uphill climb. I won't lie. It is a really hard uphill climb. And also you're walking on a lot of volcanic ash, so you're not actually putting your feet on solid ground. It acts like sand. You are going to slip and slide everywhere and you get very dusty, but when you get to the top, it's all worth it. Then when you get to base camp, you're at 3,500 meters above sea level, and you have the option to pay, I think it was £20 extra. You have the option to climb down the volcano you've just climbed and then back up and be on the physical volcano that is exploding, which I do think is really cool. And I think if we had the funds and the energy, it would have been something we 100% would have done. But just while some people in our group went and did Fuego, we all sat as a group. We had a really great view of the volcano. We were very, very lucky. We were all just sitting there chatting, getting to know people. A lot of people spoke English. They were from America or the UK, and that was really lovely to just sort of get to know what other people are doing and what their travel plans are. Some people were just there for holiday, and it was really nice chatting to everybody. Then we had dinner, and Sam luckily had brought his speaker, which I 100% recommend you do if you want to go and do this hike, because having the speaker just brought a different vibe to the evening. It was really nice. We don't have any service up there, so it was sort of a case of you can request songs, but it's got to be downloaded on my phone. It was really nice to just have that speaker and like bring a bit of ambience, but just bring a bit of an atmosphere, because you obviously don't know these people and you just want to keep it all calm and relaxed. You're all exhausted as well. And it ended up being a really nice evening of us all just marshmallows, hot chocolate, and just listening to really chilled out music. Then it was time to go to bed. And I can't lie, I don't want to glamorize this. I did not sleep at all. I did not sleep. I had actually gotten food poisoning the week before and my stomach was still really dodgy, so I was not feeling well at all. The bathroom is... the only way I can describe the bathroom is like Shrek's outhouse. It's just this random kind of wooden shack just off the side of the camp. Kind of like a porta loo, but without the walls. What was exciting is I got to just sit outside with a blanket and watch Volcano Fuego erupt, which actually ended up being really lovely. And Sam also woke up quite early, and I'm talking like 2 a.m, 3 a.m, and we needed to be up at 4 a.m. So I just sat outside for like an hour by myself, and then Sam came and joined me, and we just watched the volcano erupting together, which was just really nice. And we got to take it in ourselves and we weren't around everyone. And now the best part of the whole trip was waking up at 4 a.m, which I know sounds horrible. Waking up at 4 a.m. and going to do this hour-and-a-half hike up to the top, which was, I think, 3,800 meters. And this is the very top of the Acatenango volcano. And you watch sunrise. And it was so beautiful, so overwhelming, so cold. It was honestly so beautiful. And the colors, and just being able to see that. And you feel like you've really achieved something when you get up there, because after that, there's no more hiking up. It's only down from here on out. So you just feel this massive relief of, I've done it, I've actually completed it. And I felt really, really proud of myself, because I'm not the biggest hiker, like sportsman or whatever. I'm just not that way inclined. To complete something like that was just such an achievement. What's also nice is you get to know the people in your group, and so everybody's congratulating each other, and it's just such a sense of accomplishment. I absolutely loved it. So after we come down from watching sunrise, it's breakfast, which was really nice. We had some porridge with some banana bread, coffee, things like that. And then everybody packs up and you start walking down the volcano. Like I said before, it's like sand, the floor. It's not stable. So you are walking down, basically sliding down. I actually think that would be more accurate. You are sliding down this volcano. Whilst it's really funny, you just end up getting so dusty. You end up getting so dirty, and it's just, you could actually really injure yourself. So I would say make sure you do this hike in shoes that have grip. There were some people in our group that did this hike in Vans, and they were just slipping and sliding all over the place. You need grip when walking down this volcano. It took only about 3 hours to walk down the volcano, which is obviously really ideal, because I think at the end, and by that point, we were just like, get me off this volcano. I feel like I've been working out for 12 hours. I want to get off this volcano. I don't want to see it anymore. We get down, takes about 3 hours, and then we get in the car and they drive you back to Antigua. And having that shower after doing the hike is the best thing ever. And the nicest thing I think about walking back into our hostel was everybody can tell when you've done the hike, because it's what everyone does in the area who's traveling. And you just walk back and you're covered in dust, you look exhausted. It's the funniest thing seeing people come back from this hike and going, yeah, I know how that feels. Yeah, I've been there. That was quite fun to walk back in and people going, how was it? How was it? Did you enjoy it? That was really nice. Overall, it was one of my favorite experiences in Central America. If you have any questions about which company we went with or any specific items you're thinking of taking, you don't know if it's worth it, please just message me and obviously I can let you know. And that is the end of the second episode of the Amelie Maran Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed. I also hope I've answered all of your packing questions. If you have any travel stories, any questions, any dilemmas, please send them my way. I would love to read them and love to help you out and answer any questions you might have. I will see you next week on the next episode of the Amelie Maran Podcast. Bye.